Marty, you've just spent a whole year of your life making a piece of shit. It's a good picture, but you're better than the people who make this kind of movie. Don't get hooked into the exploitation market. Just try and do something different. Boxcar Bertha was released in the Grindhouse theaters. Together with the drama Killers 3, reaped a profit and, as you would expect from a B-movie, got terrible press reviews. Corman was pleased and offered him a new project. The idea was simple: ride out the popularity of Shaft by making their own blaxploitation. But after Cassavetes' words, Martin said no without even considering it.
I'm just not meant for this kind of life.
He started dreaming of making his own movie. Together with his childhood friend Madrick Martin, he wrote a screenplay called Witch Season, which, after 27 rewrites, became Mean Streets. The characters were based on the ones from Who's That Knocking at My Door, and the main role was once again played by Harvey Keitel. While Scorsese's agent looked for sponsors, the director was gathering a film crew and acting ensemble. After Boxcar Bertha, it was an easy task. Many who had worked on his last project happily joined Mean Streets, from cameramen, sound editors, and lighting technicians to David Carradine. For the role of Johnny Boy, Marty chose Robert De Niro, a young actor who had already acted in some pictures and at the time was acting in a humble play in New York. Scorsese and De Niro had known each other from childhood, grew up not far from each other, and sometimes saw each other at local parties, but had never been friends. And now, 15 years later, after seeing Brian De Palma's reel, the director immediately found a special connection to De Niro. Perhaps it was because of Bob's unusual for an actor humility, which even caused friends and casting directors to think he was slightly autistic.
Don't be cute. You have me going crazy here.
Yeah?
What's the matter with you?
What's the matter with you?
Shooting was delayed for only one reason: lack of money. That was when Francis Ford Coppola came to the rescue again and invested his personal finances into the project. Together with Martin's savings, it was about $300,000. It was a tiny sum, but the director was so inspired by the idea that he would have filmed it even without a budget.
What's this? Swap. This. What? That. What does this look like? Huh? What? Where'd you get this?
Filming in New York was a luxury, so Scorsese spent only 6 days there. He couldn't even buy tickets for his team from LA, and had to use freshmen from Haig Moonigan's department to help him. Their work was, at best, unprofessional. One of the assistants forgot to give the director a reel of film, which had half of the scenes in the car and the wide shots of De Niro, after which he disappeared completely. Martin had to get creative with his editing.
Look at this, embarrassing. Look at this.
Shooting on location took days. They shot everything from apartment building stairs in Little Italy to Elizabeth Street, to the cemetery at St. Patrick's Cathedral, to the Feast of San Gennaro, which was the main event of September. They shot everything that couldn't be reproduced in Los Angeles. A week later, the director was reunited with his team and spent another 21 days filming the indoor scenes. Problems followed him everywhere. The fight scene in the pool bar took 3 days to film because they had to move the lighting arrangements over 26 times for lack of equipment. A defining aspect of the cinematography was so-called handheld camera method. Instead of the typical rails and carts, the camera was held by hand. What would later be dubbed an original move and a nod to the works of Godard was actually just an attempt to save money. The camera attached to Keitel's torso, however, that was an example of Martin's resourcefulness. Later, the director locked himself in a stuffy room and started editing his precious movie. Since neither he nor Thelma Schoonmaker were members of the Editors Guild, they actually didn't technically have the right to do what they were doing. But a member of the guild, Sidney Levine, helped them out. First, he helped them with advice and mentoring, and later agreed to let them put his name on the credits. They had used the same method when editing Boxcar Bertha. It cost another $300,000 to buy the rights to the music used in the film, which pushed the budget over the $500,000 mark and made Martin's debts grow monstrously big.
You don't know what happened to me. I'm so depressed about other things. I can't worry about payments, you know what I mean?
Scorsese showed the first editing draft to Coppola, who immediately offered De Niro a role in the second installment of The Godfather. A week later, the film premiered at Cannes. Mean Streets received rave reviews, and Martin and Robert joined the Italian film Beau Monde along with Federico Fellini. After that, the team went to the New York Film Festival where the film officially premiered. Mean Streets was a hit. Critics bombarded the newspaper columns with glowing reviews, and the pile of letters offering Martin collaborations grew. Surprisingly, this period of success was marked by the director's own poverty. Scorsese spent the summer of 1973 searching for a distributor for the film. His hopes were set on Paramount since they had sponsored The Godfather, and that meant they had connections with the top people, and that they would be interested in crime dramas. But the test screening was a failure. The studio's vice president, Peter Bart, walked out halfway through the film saying, "Don't waste my time." 2 months before, the director had been blacklisted at Paramount because of his connections. Coppola had been dodging making a sequel in the Italian mob saga and had been suggesting Scorsese in his place. Peter had watched Boxcar Bertha and told Francis, anyone but him. Thankfully, there was no need for sadness since the representatives of Warner Brothers fell in love with Mean Streets. The producers who had grown up on those same streets were thrilled with the depiction of New York and were also familiar with the actors and saw serious potential in them. In addition, the head of the studio couldn't stand Fred Weintraub, and when he saw his daughter play Johnny Boy's girlfriend in the reel,
What's your name? Heather Weintraub, right?
he vowed to show the film in every theater in the country. Scorsese was overjoyed because he had sold his film to a studio, which in his mind had been distributing the best gangster movies of all time. Despite the rave reviews and praise from critics, the film was not successful at the box office. It wasn't because audiences didn't like the film, but because of foolishness on the studio's part. The movie was advertised as a gangster ballad, and its success at Cannes and New York were not mentioned. 3 days after the premiere, Warner also released The Exorcist. The horror film eclipsed the low-budget indie crime drama, and if there was any chance left of success, it was totally crushed by the re-release 2 weeks later of A Clockwork Orange and Deliverance. This was a battle that the director's original work with no-name actors could not compete with. It's amazing that Scorsese was able to return his debts and even make a little profit. Hey, do you like our work? Let us know with your like and comment, push that subscribe button, and share with your friends. If you want to support the project financially, become our sponsor on Patreon or YouTube sponsorship. Thank you.